Hi everyone, welcome to Stormdance Television. With this video, I would like to give you some guidance on what to work on for your future pre-selection run at dance battles. Frequently, bigger competitions have hundreds of participants signing up. Out of all of these, most of the times, only 16 contestants will move on into the battles, and that's only really where the fun starts. So if you wish to improve your performance skills and want to leave the right impression with the judges, then you might want to take some notes about some pretty important things I kept addressing for many, many years. You ready for it? So let's start. Part 1. So, here are the first things you need to get into your head. When you're on, you must show the best version of yourself. Everybody else who seriously wants to win that contest that day comes prepared, and so should you. If on that day you perform in a pre-selection cipher, a four-corner or similar divisive concept, then don't forget it's not enough to be better than the people that are with you on that particular stage. At that moment, you must try to obliviate everyone in the entire pre-selection. So, how do you do that? Let's start with your mental state. Here comes part 2. You must be absolutely sure about yourself and everything that you present. Get on that stage and show you are the one. Your attitude should signal that you came to win. If you give anybody in the jury the feeling you're not worthy, they have no reason to pick you. So get serious about it and show no weakness at all if possible. Here are a few general tips for you in that regard. A. Use the alter ego effect. You don't know what that is? Get a nickname. Make sure you pick a superhero name and develop an Übermensch. Okay? Once it is battle time, you have a telephone booth moment and let that alter ego take over. Great examples here are characters like Ivan the Urban Action Figure from USA, Lucy Sky from Ukraine, Hong Ten from South Korea, or B-Boy Junior from France, that all show different superhero traits to me. So B, if any mess-ups occur, improvise and move on like nothing ever happened. At best, pretend that this is how it was supposed to be. C, you gotta look up. Never look on the ground like you are searching for a lost earring or the floor has something written on it that helps you to get through to this, right? D. Don't fixate your eyes on anything either. Your head is part of your body, and as a dancer, it should move organically with the rest of it. If you stare, it automatically blocks your head and your body hinges on it. You see? That means it limits your ways of expression. This leads us to Part 3, showcasing your skills. And we start with the dimensional play. There are 3 ways of how I look at it, and I can determine at a glimpse whether you know your craft or not. So check this out. A, there are your body dimensions, and within that, there are already multiple dimensional ways to produce variety in movement. So let me explain it in a simple way. A straight line is only one-dimensional. If I move in a straight line, the only variability is in its length. I can make it short, I can make it long. If I curve that line, I add a second dimension and a multiplier, because I have endless possibilities of how I curve it. Adding a third dimension would mean that curve now becomes a spiral. That's another multiplier. By adding more dimension, the moves become more complex. So besides finding multiple ways of doing a move, they also become harder to do. Another abstract vector could be when people isolate one or more moves from the rest of the body. That's what we call a multi-body concept. Okay. B. Another way of how we play with dimension is by using the room and the dance floor the same way as a painter is using a canvas to draw on. Control your moves the same way as you control the space. Make sure you don't unintentionally drift off. And you gotta move around deliberately, showing you are aware of the space around you. If possible, You can even spontaneously use parts of the room structure for your advantage, like you could play with the fence around the stage, use the floor slippiness for some extra spins and slides, redraw patterns on the floor with your moves and surprise the audience and judges with something site-specific and music-specific. It is super powerful when people have the feeling they witness something that has never ever happened before. Use that. Always remember, it is not about your moves, but what your movements do with the audience. That gets me to the last way of how to use dimension. So see, the last super obvious and for most of us imperative importance is the dimension of time. Any action takes time. And in dancing, you let your audience know whether you mastered your skills by acknowledging the grid of the music as the common metric. In other words, the more I play with dimensions, the more complex are my moves and the harder it is to stay on beat. While in all the curviness of your moves there is freedom, there is dictatorship in the music. The absolute minimum of musicality we ask for is to at least dance to the beat. Any disconnect from that communicates a lack of technical skill. Any slip or loss of control is always seen in timing first. Have you ever had heart palpitations? Us judges feel the same way when you dance off rhythm as when your heart skips a beat. So absolutely avoid dancing off beat. If you do not know how to execute a move within the pattern of the song that's played, I suggest you shouldn't do it in your performance yet. And train it as a loop in its rudimentary form until you have it down pat. Part 4 is about dynamics, which is the play with contrast. This aspect also delves mainly into the development of movement variety. But once it is time to perform, it is more about making the right choices at the right time to create something meaningful. So let me explain. At first, a dancer must develop an understanding of how important contrast is. For the development of an awareness for quality, that usually happens through training and observing. So with deliberate practice, one should realize contrasts of consistency and inconsistency, easy and difficult, slow and fast, precision and imprecision, controlled and uncontrolled. So after that, it is about how to build contrastful sequences. You can do that by playing with the dialectics of opposites. For example, high physical effort and low physical effort, fast and slow, standing on legs and standing on hands, lateral moves and vertical moves, descending and ascending, hard and soft, linear, circular, relaxation and contraction, back and forth, up and down, and so on and on and on and on. Yeah? I think I gave you enough ideas on that one. So the faster these extremes are used, the bigger the dynamic effect. So it leads into the dichotomy of stimulation. How does the audience and how do the judges deal with the tension between the thrill and the void, the excitement and the boredom, which now delves into the very last important part number 5, the performance aspect, which again is a broader part of musicality. Let me break it down to you in easy words. A performance has a structure we call composition, and it is determined by different tension points. So there are peaks and lows, impactful moments, and rather lengthy sequences at times, right? So once you start breaking, you learn about the typical tension art structure and breaking that we call top rock, down rock, freeze. So top rock is the intro of your solo, which means you're dancing while standing up. Down rock is the entire middle part, or better the main part, when you're dancing on the ground. And the freeze often marks the clear end of a set. It's not always like that, but generally, yes. Knowing this alone is already a huge step into a very, very good performance composition. Let's get more specific, and while we are at it, I stress a little bit more on the breaking philosophy. So, it is your turn. Your intro. That means you're introducing yourself. Make sure you get that attention. Top rock means you get psyched up. You prepare yourself and everybody else around you for what is coming after. Your body language shows you want space, you're in attack mode. That part should be timed. Too long is not good, and too short neither. So by looking at the data of what is the best moment to go down, it should take around 1/6 of the time of your entire solo. While you are dancing on top, make sure you show at least one sequence of steps the judges have never seen before or something they only know from you. Show you have a solid foundation, but also that you are creative. Now comes the go down. When you drop on the floor, it should be a first small climactic moment. While your top rock can create transcendence by immersing with the music and marking the performance space and so on, this next thing, your go down, should come as a surprise. If I was you, I would definitely get on the ground with a move that nobody else does, and I would do it as dynamic as possible. You should create a bit of a shock moment here. Now you're on the floor. The down rock part holds about 4/6 of the average time of your solo. Now hold up. Before we continue with the performative aspects, there are two very important technical issues I like to raise when it comes to down rock. First, footwork should be percussive. It should contain fast kicks. I'm saying that because recently I've seen many breakers lacking energy, and in their footwork it was rather looking like they were pushing instead of kicking. If you go into a boxing gym and you hit a punching bag, you find out that difference between a push and a kick very fast. Just the sound it makes when you hit that bag already tells you everything. You want your kicks like Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, and your shuffles swift like the ones from Muhammad Ali. The second technical but also aesthetical thing is about low gravity moves. To make your body appear lighter than it is, do yourself a favor and learn how to sit on your heels in front position. By doing so, it elevates your hips and makes everything look lighter, like you're floating. Avoid sitting or lying on the floor as much as possible, as moves in these positions do not enable you to play much with balance, and they also let your body appear heavy. Particularly by looking at data of Beagle battles, we found out that those Beagles that used these positions more than others were all eliminated earlier in the contests. Okay, now let's continue with the performance build-up. We stopped on the go down, so we just went down on the ground. Now do yourself a favor and catalog your dance vocabulary just for this task now, not by the regularly used terms of breaking, but into brackets of excitement aspects. So you take all your moves and you branch them into 4 parts. First part, trivia, which is used for a low felt tension. Second, main parts, which are used for everything that holds the tension at an average level. Third, blow-ups, which is used for peaks and climaxes. And last, 4 transitional moves, which bridge some of the vocabulary in your set. Now you combine these moves by forming phrases that will lead into narratives with the most climactic moment at the end. While you're training on that, be cautious about this one performative rule. Use trivia and the seemingly boring parts to lead into excitement. The further you drag an audience down, the more they crave an emotional engagement. That also, again, has to do with dynamics. Okay? A, excitement is fueled by novelty. That means you must do something new and entirely yours. B, it is fueled by challenge. So make it look like you are taking risks. Play with balance and with seemingly impossible move combinations, for example. And C, it is also fueled by unpredictability. And what that means for you is the key to create the impact you wish to have, to be remembered by anyone in the house. This is something that really is entirely determined by the composition of your set, and it must be practiced as much as you practice your moves. I'm telling people very often to go out and do street shows, because here on the street you really learn how to perform in the most brutal sense. Not just that you learn how to execute your moves better, but much more to align them in such a way that people stay in the crowd watching your presented narrative until the end and still pay you. The key here is to create sort of a restructuring of the mind moment towards the end. Something where they have the feeling they learned something, an epiphany, an insightful glimpse that changed their life, maybe forever. That is the goal, nothing else. You may think that's hard, not really. Let's look at humor for a minute. Every time someone is telling you a joke, that's exactly what happens. The story starts, and you're locked in, paying attention. You think you know where it is going, but then comes the twist, and you're laughing, which is a great sign of an emotional overdose. So thinking that practicing your moves and just aligning them randomly is doing it won't work. Even the hardest moves can appear boring if they are not presented right. Let me explain you about the importance of a great ending now. Therefore, we must look at a freeze. Less from a technical, but much more from a performative perspective. In terms of dynamics, again, it should come after a set of fast movements. Then it can also be an easy pose, because its effect lies in the sudden stillness. Sure, the most famous freezes that we know are either gravity-defying and are body and limb twisting poses, but it is never the pose itself, but how you get into it. The more unpredictable your way into that freeze is, the more it becomes a blow-up. So use a blow-up moment at the end of your set and create that absolute peak just before the end of your run. After that, you only have to make sure you get out of that pose graciously and to leave the stage with confidence. That should mark the last 1/6 of your performance. Cool. So what I gave you here is a general formula, all right? Of course, this is not only about your pre-selection. This video should also serve you as a guide, helping you to enhance your performance level in general. It is my pleasure to be able to share that knowledge with you, and once I see you somewhere, I hope we can get into a deeper talk about these issues. Have fun, that's it, bye-bye.